college basketball season is less than 1 week away, and the season starts with a bang. There are 126 games scheduled for Monday, November 7th, with Baylor and Mississippi Valley State tipping off at noon Eastern Time. We have 2 ways to help you get this season underway. Number 1, as we did for the start of the NHL season and as well as the beginning of the NBA season, all 7-day college basketball packages will be only $49 through Sunday, November 13th at midnight. Number 2, head to Ralph Michaels' homepage at WagerTalk.com and get the free 100-page college basketball preview. The shortcut to Ralph's page is wt.buzz/rm. This 100-page guide has returning starters, percentage of returning minutes, last season's overall stats, as well as conference-only statistics, plus against the spread and over-under data. It also includes coaching data, conference previews, and a forecast for each conference. Whether it's a 7-day college basketball package, checking the WagerTalk odds page for updated numbers, or downloading the free college basketball guide, enjoy this season. And March Madness will be here before we know it.
Welcome, everybody, to Wager Talk Today. I am Lawrence Presman. He is Teddy Covers. You're watching the best daily sports betting show on the planet. Teddy, man, I was the $2 Tuesday handicapper yesterday, and I realized that it is both a gift and a curse. It is a gift because you probably make about 1 million more sales than you normally make. And it's a curse because the stress was just too much to handle. I literally paced for 2.5 hours last night. It was out of control, but I had the over in the Vancouver Canucks game, over 6.5. We had 10 goals scored. How did you do, my friend?
I lost last night. I had Toledo minus the points. I had great closing line value with that play. We'll talk about it in what bettors learn, but closing line value does not equate necessarily to winners. That was not the case last night.
That's all. I did lose my Buffalo play, but so long as we get that $2 Tuesday play in, as I mentioned on Wager Talk, I probably on Puck Time, I probably outsold my loser like 500 to 1. Like those kind of numbers. Steve Merril joining us. Steve, I love having you on this show, man. What's going on?
Not much, Prez. Nice to see you, and looking forward to another big week of football. We got
Teddy's
some daily.
Teddy's about to type in Slack. Prez, you didn't go to me and ask me who is on the show.
Steve
Teddy,
Merril.
who's on the show?
Sure. That would be a good idea to introduce the show for our audience today. We have Steve Merril coming on. He's going to talk some college football. Notre Dame versus Navy, Boise State versus Nevada for Saturday action. Andrew McInnis going to join us after that. The CFL semifinal is going to break down BC and the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as well as the Penguins and Capitals in NHL action. Arthur DiCesare from the Westgate Superbook will join us as well. Closing out the show, we're going to ask Art everything that we can think of that we want to know from the bookmakers this week. My big game breakdown. We'll talk a little NBA tonight, the Phoenix Suns and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and of course, Lawrence's presidential address to close out the show. Now, let's bring in Steve Merril.
That is the first time you've ever mentioned my presidential address, Teddy. You must be loving on me today, Steve. Now I have to welcome you to the show. What up, bro?
Well, first of all, Teddy was very nice about that, and he mentioned your presidential address. That can mean only one thing. You must not be on the show tomorrow. I'll be guest hosting for you tomorrow,
Teddy's
Prez,
already,
so you'll be back on Friday.
Teddy's already rejoicing, that's for sure. Steve, man, let's get straight into it, shall we? You've got some thoughts, some betting thoughts in college football. Notre Dame minus 16.5 against Navy. A really low total for this type of spread. I'm guessing they think Navy's going to put up 6, 9. How are you handicapping this game?
Yeah, when I sent this over last night, it was 16.5, which is pretty much where it's sitting still. The total was around 40.5, I believe. That's pretty much where it is now also. So you're looking at basically Navy needs to get to 2 touchdowns to stay within the spread if it stays under. And I will say, first of all, talking about that low total and the big dog, side total is somewhat correlated in this game, and I think the handicap is as well. Obviously, Navy is a triple option service academy, just like Army, just like Air Force. They can't quite get the athletes and the size that the other Division I programs get. So it's a smart strategy to, do something different and run the triple option. And that means they run the ball 60 times per game. They throw the ball 12 times per game. So obviously running the clock, running the ball often prevents big scoring plays, keeps that clock moving. So the under is somewhat correlated to Navy's success in this game. But 41 is a really key number, and 40.5 is kind of an ugly total. So I'm going to stay off the total here, but I'm going to talk about Notre Dame and Navy from a side perspective. 16.5, kind of an ugly point spread as well. I'd like to get 17 here. Let's sit back and wait and see where this line goes by this weekend. It kicks off at noon Eastern on Saturday. Is a neutral field at M&T Stadium. But I think it's 17 or more, which we might see at some point. There are some 16s out there. 16.5 in most spots, but I like Navy to keep this game close, and it's more of maybe a play against Notre Dame. I actually had a strong best bet last week for my clients on Notre Dame against Clemson at WagerTalk.com. I also mentioned it in the college top 25 video. Now, Notre Dame was not top 25, but someone chimed in the comments. I read all the comments. They said, what do you think of that game? And I mentioned I thought Notre Dame was live. So, look, Notre Dame is now ranked 20th. They go from being ranked 5th at the beginning of the season, unranked for the last month or two, and now they're all of a sudden, boom, number 20 again. This does look like a potential flat spot. Straight up home dog win, also a dog win at Syracuse, and now they're laying double digits on the road. And Navy's not exactly the type of team you want to play if you're flat with that triple option and limited time to prepare. So we'll take a flyer with Navy plus 16.5. Hopefully maybe find a 17 at some point this week.
So 34-6 last year, Navy finished with 184 yards of total offense in that ball game. Was 52-20 the previous meeting, 44-22 before that. It's been a fairly one-sided series in favor of Notre Dame in recent seasons. And certainly Navy's been able to hang around in some of these games. They hung around against Cincinnati last week, but 260 yards of offense in that game. They had 224 yards of offense against Temple. This is not a dynamic Navy attack. Are you worried at all? And if you are, would you play this game under as well if it comes to Navy's offense and their ability to move the football here? Because it hasn't worked real well in recent weeks, and it hasn't worked real well against Notre Dame.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's kind of going back to my initial point about the side and total being correlated, right? It's like Navy's not going to win a shootout. I don't see that happening here. And one of the other reasons I'm comfortable more so maybe in this game than in recent years, like you said, where they've struggled to keep up, is that Notre Dame is not a great offensive team this year. They're averaging just 29 points a game, averaging just 5.5 yards per play against teams that allow 5.4, and they don't throw the ball real explosive. 7 yards per pass against teams that give up 7. So this is not an explosive Notre Dame offense. I know they did put up some points last week, 35 against Clemson, but keep in mind they only had 85 passing yards in that game, 263 on the ground. So once again, both teams are going to be run first. So I do agree with the under 40.5. Would like to have gotten 41. But if it's a low-scoring game, that definitely gives Navy a better chance to stay within 2.5 touchdowns.
Steve, what's the team total on Navy?
I'm not sure if they're out yet, but I mean, the projection would be about 13.5, I believe. And, looking at the WagerTalk live odds, I'm not seeing any actual team totals. But, of course, for the viewers out there, you can always make your own team total. As you know, Teddy, you take 40 minus 16. That gives you 24. Half of that is 12. So that would be Navy. And then you add the 16 back. So 28-12. Would be basically the rough projected totals, 12.5 probably for Navy.
Steve Merril joining us, everyone. Go ahead, Teddy.
I don't know how real these are, but I'm seeing on the live odds screen, I'm seeing a 12.5 at Rivers for Navy. That's the only total I see up there.
Yeah,
that's what it should be.
Sounds like an under. Steve, Boise State minus 20.5 against Nevada again. Another correlated total. 47.5 is the total in this game. I was on Boise last week. They let me down. What should we do here?
Yeah, Prez, I was on Boise as well, and they let me down. And I've had a really good run in college football. The last 3 Saturdays, 71%, and that was with Boise missing. 12-4, 75% on all the other games I've released the last 3 weeks. So they let me down as well. And I'm going to stay off the side for that reason, actually, because you think you probably agree. Whenever you like a spot for a team and they underperform, it's kind of a red flag. You got to make sure, something, you're not missing something. And they were, keep in mind, as you know, a 9.5-point favorite in that game at home and lost outright. Not only did they not cover, they lost outright as more than a touchdown favorite. Now they're laying 3 touchdowns on the road against a really bad Nevada team. I don't want anything to do with Nevada here. This line actually opened as high as 21.5. It's now down to 20.5. So it has crossed below that key number of exactly 3 touchdowns with Boise. But once again, this team has put up 28 points or less in 2 of their last 3 games. So I'm not sure I want to lay that kind of number. But that limited offense does get me looking at the under. And there's a few reasons I like the under here. First of all, Boise, like Notre Dame, not nearly explosive offensively they've been in years past. Just 28.5 points a game. But they're actually a below average offensive team if you look at yards per play. 5.5 against teams that allow 5.7 on the season. Nevada allows 5.7 on the season. So I don't think the Boise is necessarily going to run away with this game, but I want nothing to do with Nevada. So that's why I'm looking at the under. This team averages less than 21 a game, 4.3 yards per play against teams that give up 5.3. Boise's given up just 4.6. So Boise really should shut down Nevada. That team total might be worth a look on under as well. And the big thing about Nevada, they've got no backdoor cover potential whatsoever. They average just 5.5 yards per pass, one of the worst offenses and one of the worst passing attacks in college football. So I think it's a bounce back spot for Boise, a focus spot. We'll take the under. Opened as high as 48.5. Mostly 47s out there. Circa is at 46 in Vegas and some of the sharper offshores. So I think there's some sharp money on the under in this game.
Yeah, team total here for Nevada, I'm seeing like a 13.5. Would that be something you're looking at here? Because certainly Boise's defense is elite. They did get pushed around a little bit last week by a big physical offensive line, but Nevada doesn't have that, clearly. And with Green at QB, I mean, Boise's offensive numbers, you got to break them down between, before the coordinator slash quarterback change versus after Dirk Cutter and Green took over as the QB position. And since that time, that offense has been clicking. So, and clicking pretty consistently. Even last week when they scored 28, that's not a low scoring affair. They had 49 the week before that, 40 against Fresno, 35 against San Diego State, all in the second half. That was when that coaching slash QB change happened. So this offense has worked in recent weeks. Would you be more, would you look to a Nevada team total under as opposed to a 4-game under? Or is that not something you're all that worried about?
It's a good point, Teddy, because on the season, they're averaging just below 29 per game. But if you look at their last 5 games, they put up 28 or more in 4 of those 5. So you're right. They are playing better than they were the first month. And that only bad outing, by the way, that 19-14 game was at Air Force, which is like that Navy-Notre Dame game. And it's kind of an uglied up, almost like in college basketball, slow down half-court style. So that is a concern. And that's why I mentioned also, I do think Nevada's team total is worth a look. I wish it was 14. Yeah. Obviously 13.5 is such an ugly number, and you're talking about a very low point range. Obviously 13.5, 14, pretty substantial difference, but definitely would not disagree with the Nevada team total under.
Steve Merril, everybody. Starchild writes, why is Steve talking about this game? It's trash. The better game is UNLV versus Fresno State. What does that mean, Starchild? Like, Steve comes on here and talks about potentially winning bets. He's not picking, what makes a good game versus a bad game. I don't understand that question. But Teddy, to you, Steve, stay with us because I'm going to change topics in a sec. Teddy, to you. Jessica, who is one of our absolute MVP listeners and watchers, wants us to talk about Cleveland and Miami. We can't do that today. Can I request that in your big game breakdown tomorrow?
Well, no, let's put it in your presidential address today or tomorrow. Let's do it that way. Yeah. Prez will break it down in his presidential address tomorrow. Problem solved.
Prez will break it down in his NFL presidential address today. So there you go, Jessica. I tried to get Teddy to, I tried to get a request in. It failed.
So this is why. I'm not going to do a big game breakdown because that is a game that I am likely to use for my clients.
Then say that. And believe it or not, Teddy, it's a game I'm going to use too. And not only that, but I've already got it up. It's only $9. You want to know what I'm playing in that game? $9. Steve and Teddy, both of you guys, I'm going to race through this because this is such an interesting story to me. And all three of us are fathers. We all have children. There's a guy named Mitchell something or other. I can't remember. Andrew, what was his name? I don't even hear him. Anyway, Mitchell Miller. Mitchell Miller, from the age of like 7 years old to 14, really badly bullied a kid, an African-American kid. He was racist. He was violent. He actually put popsicles in the urinal and then would make the kid lick the popsicle. Anyway, this kid is 20 now. He was drafted in the NHL when he was 18 by the Arizona Coyotes. There was an unbelievable amount of backlash, and Arizona let him go. He has not been able to find his way back into the NHL. The Boston Bruins signed him last week, said everybody deserves a second chance. The bullying stopped when this kid was 14 years old. Boston has now gotten a ton of bad press and have released him as well. I find this so interesting. Does this kid deserve a second chance to play in the NHL or not, Teddy?
I don't know any of the details.
I have no idea how to respond. I just gave you them all. I literally gave you all the details.
Obviously, if there is ongoing situation, okay, then that's not all the details. There's
He's
more
not
details.
ongoing. It ended when he was 14.
So he hasn't done anything since he was 14.
And not only that, he's on the lecture circuit talking against bullying. He's very open about the mistakes that he has made, but the bullying was very bad.
I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is.
Steve?
Yeah, I don't either. I mean, if it came to mind was Michael Vick, obviously from my hometown here in Virginia. He actually had 5 houses, one of them in my neighborhood, and obviously he lost everything, 15 years ago with the dogfighting incident. And I always kind of had a bitter taste when he had success again because I thought it was so awful. But then again, I would like to think if I screwed up in life, I have a chance to make things right. And I don't think a guy as a 7 to 14-year-old especially should be punished as a kid. So if he's really turned his life around and he's speaking against it now, that could be a positive. I mean, if he's still bullying guys in the locker room, that's a different story.
He's not bullying anybody anymore. I'd
like to think that you can. Yeah.
Deshaun Watson assaults 47 women as a grown adult, and he is going to be playing in the NFL in 4 weeks.
Right. Prez, I'm against the whole cancel culture thing, and I think someone deserves a second chance.
How can this guy not be allowed a second chance? How?
I agree.
How?
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but if he's really turned his life around, I don't think he should be punished for something he did as a kid.
Yeah.
So Andrew McInnis just slacked me and said, tell Prez he never even apologized till he was forced to. So
yeah, that's a different story then. And that's Teddy, real quick, the Michael Vick thing. I always kind of had a bitter taste about Michael Vick too, because I never felt like Michael Vick was really sorry about all the dogs that died and whatnot. I felt like he did what he had to do to get back in the game. So that's a different story.
And Deshaun Watson apologized, and Kareem Hunt. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. The guy deserves a second chance. I find it a fascinating story. Steve, what do you got to promote?
F-Ball 3. F-Ball 3. Here's what that gets you. It gets you a 3-day all access whenever you want to use it this week, and it gets you an instant $15 off. That might not sound much, but normally it's $59. It gets it down to $44. Think about it. That's less than $15 per day for every sport I release. College basketball, pro basketball, college football, NFL on a daily basis. It's a great time to try out my best bet service at WagerTalk.com and get in for a low entry fee this week. F-Ball 3 gets it done. 3-day all sports for just $44. Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
There you go. Teddy, what did you learn last night in the wonderful world of sports betting?
What a good question, Prez.
Thank you for asking. Teddy.
So, what bettors learned last night? And this one stood out like a sore thumb. I got a tweet about it this morning. I am saying it's about closing line value. I want to talk about. Last night I had a play on Toledo. I was confident Toledo's quarterback was going to play. The line at the time was minus 11, minus 11.5. It got bet up to 14 once the quarterback was announced he was going to play. And of course, Toledo never sniffed a point spread cover in that ball game, and were lucky to win by a touchdown. Well, they found a way to win by a TD, but didn't cover the opening or the closing number. Closing line value, every sharp will tell you, it's crucial. The most important thing is closing line value. I disagree strongly. And again, last night, just one more example. It's not unusual. The bigger line moves aren't any better than 50-50 at best. All right, getting a point or two the best of it isn't going to help all the time. We preach about getting the best of the number. And especially around 3s and 7s, you absolutely need to get the best of the number. But you know what's more important than closing line value? Right sides. That's what. Winners. That's what. And getting the best of it doesn't matter one lick. There are lots of guys who put out losing plays. Say, look at the closing line value I got. Oh, look, I'm beating the market by 2 points. Great. But your picks are losing. If I have a choice between getting the worst of the number and winning or getting the best of the number and losing, I'll take the worst of the number every single time. Closing line value, something to be aware of, something to look to get the best of it. But is that the most important thing in sports betting? In my opinion, it is not. Prez?
Andrew McInnis joining us. Andrew, our second show together. Our first one was fun. You guys got to check out Puck Time today. Andrew Carmine and myself. I promise there will be laughter along the way. What's up, brother?
What's going on? Long time since I've chatted with both of you guys. It's a great time to be a sports fan and sports bettor, guys. And I know college football and NFL are the big thing right now, but I had to squeak in some Canadian football. I have a CFL play for you guys for today, and of course some NHL to break down. But good to be here.
Well, good news, Andrew. No follow-up questions from Teddy on this segment, so you don't need to defend. Anyway, first and foremost, right off the bat, you have a 5% play up in CFL. You're on a 7-3 run in these plays. Your CFL season's been great. Guys, grab that play. I've seen it. I love it. It makes total sense. Get Andrew's 5% Canadian football play, please. Okay, brother, Nathan Rourke. Brother of whatever his name is, Rourke, who's the current pitcher at Ohio, had an outstanding night last night. He's leading the BC Lions into Winnipeg. -4.5 for the Blue Bombers, a total of 49.5. What do we do?
Look, the Blue Bombers are going for a three-peat. They have been unbelievable for many, many years now, especially at home field. They are currently on a long-term run of 28-2 at home, which is just ridiculous to think about. But I'm going to focus here on the total in this game, with the current number being at 49.5. I understand a lot of times in the playoffs, you might expect more defensive games and potentially conservative play calling, at least to start games out. I do not expect that in this game. We have two teams with very talented quarterbacks, as you mentioned. They both are not scared to go downfield. Pretty solid offensive lines. These quarterbacks will be protected. And just take a look at the series history with these two clubs this year. The first matchup of the season, final score was 43-22 in favor of Winnipeg. The next time they met, it was 40-32 for BC. I mean, we are seeing high-scoring games for both these clubs. And, as far as this BC team, they just put up 30 points in their conference semifinal game against Calgary. This game has shootout written all over it. I just really respect the fact that both coaches, as much as they do have a run game to go to, they are not scared to go downfield, and they will continue to do that against each other. I'm going to let the series history speak for it and kind of just look towards points in this one at 49.5. It should be a really good game, a back and forth game. And as far as weather, we're talking about totals. We're talking about Canadian football. You have to bring up weather. And as far as Winnipeg goes, a place that doesn't usually have the best weather, we'll put it that way, guys. But it looks like Sunday we'll have, decent weather. It's going to be just hovering around 0. So it's not going to be too bad. And a little bit of clouds, no rain, no snow. So it should be pretty good as far as that's concerned. So over 49.5, Western Finals for me, BC and Winnipeg.
Well, you stole my follow-up question because I was going to say, can we bet overs in Winnipeg in November? The answer, according to Andrew McInnis, absolutely yes. Let's shift our focus to the NHL for tonight. 4 games on the card for this evening. You want to talk about Pittsburgh and Washington? I'm seeing a little bit of money coming for the Penguins. It's really two-way action. minus 125, minus 130 for Pittsburgh. Total sitting at 6.5. What do we do, Pens and Capital?
Well, Teddy, in general, this season, I talked about it on Puck Time. You want to ride streaks. You want to take a look at teams that are performing well. It's hard to go against a team that's losing right now and kind of be the guy that tries to predict when that losing streak will be snapped. However, I think tonight is the night for that to happen for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think they get out of their losing streak tonight against the Washington Capitals. They've had a few days to practice. They've had a few days to go over some film. They're getting healthier. They're minus 130 favorites. I understand why am I taking a team, decent favorite here on the road, and they're in a losing streak. But, the Capitals have been winning a little bit, but they're so injured. They've got so many guys out that it has to start piling up. I mean, Backstrom is out, Oshie's out, Carlson's out, Orlov is out. I could go down a long grocery-sized list of injuries for them. And really, as far as their scoring goes, they're scoring, I think, 2.6 goals per game, this Capitals team. Really not very impressive. The Penguins, they've been able to put up goals. They just can't keep their lead. So I think having a couple of days off really benefits them, and they'll hold their lead tonight against the Washington Capitals. Prez, I know you're against me on this one. You didn't like the price, but I think the Capitals are in for a rough one, and Penguins snap out of their losing skid.
Andrew McInnis, everyone. And Andrew, I'm not against you, as in, like, I'm not betting that game at all, but there's no way I'm taking a team that's lost 7 games in a row that's a favorite on the road. It just makes no sense value-wise to me. But, hey, go Pittsburgh, because I'm not in play. Brother, I've promoted your 5-star. I'll do it again. 5% play by Andrew McInnis in Canadian football for this weekend. He's on a 7-3 run. He was 57% in all of Canadian football bets on the year. Over 25 units of profit. Make sure to grab his play. Now get out of here, you young guy.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Teddy, you ready? Commercial break and then your big game breakdown.
Have you checked out all the new handicappers at WagerTalk? If not, here's your chance. You can take 50% off your first daily or 3-day all-access purchase at WagerTalk using coupon code TRYWT. Our new roster of experts is 30 deep, covering sports from all around the world, giving you tons of options to choose from. All you have to do to redeem this offer is go to WagerTalk.com, choose a handicapper of your choice, and use coupon code TRYWT at checkout, saving 50% on your first purchase.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's go to the association for tonight. Take a look at the Phoenix Suns and the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is a fascinating game. Right now, looking at the WagerTalk Live odds screen, I'm seeing Phoenix short road chalk. Let's call it -1, total sitting 232.5. Injury concerns for both teams tonight. It looks like Rudy Gobert he's been upgraded to probable. He's been in quarantine the last couple of games with COVID-related symptoms. Gobert is expected to play this evening, whereas Chris Paul is still questionable for Phoenix. Of course, they already lost Cam Johnson, a key player from their front court. And of course, we've got a Minnesota team coming off a bad home blowout loss at the hands of the New York Knicks. They trailed as many as 27 in that ball game. They only lost by 13, but it was worse than the final score indicated. They were never in the contest. And this happened a fair bit to Minnesota so far this season. You know, there have been 2 consistent problems for the T-Wolves from day one this year. They can't hit 3-pointers, shooting just 32% from beyond the arc, and they're turning the ball over, more than 16 turnovers per game. Both of those ranked near the bottom of the NBA. Neither one is good against Phoenix. And of course, they're coming in off Phoenix off a loss, soaring a season-low 88 in a defeat at Philly earlier this week on Monday. And when I look at Minnesota, this is a team that's 5 wins this season. The Spurs, the Thunder twice, the Rockets, and the Lakers. They haven't beaten Anybody. And they're getting Gobert back, so all the money's going to come from Minnesota. Get your closing line value with Minnesota if you bet them early. Phoenix off a loss. They've had two previous examples. They won by 17 against the Clippers. They won by 20 against the Blazers. Give me Phoenix off a loss, not Minnesota off of anything. This Timberwolves team has been a major disappointment. We're not going to put money on them until they show us that they're potentially capable of living up to their enormous preseason expectations. Phoenix Road Chalk, there's a play. There's your big game breakdown. Back to you, Mr. Prez.
Teddy covers. Awesome. Let's bring Art in. Art DiCesare, everyone. How are you, man? What's going on?
What's up, boys? Good morning. Pleasure to be here.
I'm excited, Art. I'm excited. You taking a lot of World Cup soccer bets? I mean, is the vibe happening? Is the energy starting?
It is. We took a nice 5-figure bet. I think yesterday or the day before on Spain at 9-1 to win it all. We're now at 7-1, so we're starting to see it roll in. Move. Yeah, starting to see it roll in. Starting to see people bet on the groups. We also have like group totals on points. You know, you like Brazil over 6.5 points, or things of that nature. So definitely a lot. I mean, obviously it gets a little bit lost in the shuffle with all the other things going on, especially because the World Cup is normally in the summer. But there are definitely people who have started to realize, oh, wait, we got the World Cup coming up here. So, yeah, we started to see some bets come in.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious on a Sunday. I'm coming down in December to play poker again. I'm curious on a Sunday, like, are the World Cup games going to be on, or is this going to be NFL football?
Well, NFL always, is king, and it's going to be on sound, and it's going to be on everything that needs to be. But, I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty sure you would know better than me, but I think there's like an England-United States game, like Thanksgiving Day or the day after or something like that, and which actually might be going against college football. And I think we'll probably have United States-England on sound.
Yeah.
Compared to maybe some of the lowercase college football. If it was NFL, it wouldn't matter. NFL would be on sound. It's the NFL. But I think if you're going to have it up against some lowercase college football games, U.S.-England will get sound.
Teddy?
So I want to ask you about Mattress Mac. Obviously, he won $75
Teddy's
million.
Got it. Teddy is infatuated with this topic. Like, okay, sorry. Go ahead.
I'm not infatuated with the topic. I'm interested in the topic, and I think our audience is as well. We talked about it once yesterday with Dave Sherpin, who had modest information about the books. Art DiCesare works here in Las Vegas at a book. Did you guys have any Mattress Mac liability? If you didn't, why not? If you did, how'd you handle it?
We did not. And Teddy, I think it's interesting too. And, I got a ton of texts from people in my life who, and they're not even that keyed into sports betting, but Mattress Mac's like a story. Like, they know who he is. And I even got people like, hey, did you take any bets from that guy? And I was like, I've never seen him. He didn't bet with us. But, he did bet at my old employer. So, I know they had a lot of liability on him. But, no, we didn't. Mattress Mac did not come and bet with us. World Series was actually pretty good for us. Either team who was going to win was fine. And, it really wasn't going to matter for us either way. We just kind of watched and, saw what happened with these other books.
Well, so there were books that took to what, $25 million hits, $35 million hits, $10 million hits. And the reports are that's going to affect the bottom line for the corporation that owns the sports book for the entire quarter. Are the margins that low? Is a $10 million loss going to take a book for going to send a stock price down? Is that going to take a book for a loop? If you guys lost 10 mil, would you be able to make it up?
Well, Teddy, I look at us as at the Westgate, we're not Caesars or MGM. Those are big corporations that got a million different places, a million different casinos, a million different sports books. I mean, Westgate, we're ourselves, we got a couple of operations in other states where we run mobile stuff. But, for us to take 10, 15, 20, $25 million loss on the World Series, it'd be tough. I mean, I know that would be something where I wouldn't be in those meetings, but Some of the guys who, I work for and report to, they'd be reporting to people who, I don't want to say someone would lose their job, but you never know. I mean, for a smaller place like us that really just runs our own shop, man, we couldn't take a loss like that. No way.
I mean, the only previous example like that I can think of was when the Rams were 200-1, and there were a couple of sportsbook directors that kept the Rams at 100-1. Nick Bodanovich was the famous one at Mandalay, who kept them at 100-1 way after all the other books moved them down to 40, 30, 20. And then after the Rams won the Super Bowl that year, there were multiple sportsbook directors that lost their jobs here in Las Vegas as a result of that decision that they made. I don't think any of them are out of the industry, though. Everyone found work somewhere else. But it can and does happen where the powers upstairs say, y'all shouldn't have done that, and fire someone. But obviously that's not the case at Westgate. Do you think someone's going to lose their job off of that the Caesars bet or the MGM bet?
Man, it's a great question, and then obviously it's a little bit different of a situation, right? It wasn't Rams sitting at 2, or it wasn't the Astros sitting at 200 or 100-1. I mean, they were one of the favorites. I mean, I think a lot of it was let's get publicity and blah, 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 and all these type of things. And then, when you actually got to pay the tickets out, it's like, oh, wait, we got to pay this guy $35 million. So, it kind of works both ways here. But, yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know if anyone would lose their job. I know for us, it would be it would have been a tense week for us back in the risk room if we were holding Mattress Mac tickets.
Sure. Yeah. And of course, Mattress Mac gets plenty of publicity for winning those bets.
Especially on WagerTalk Today.
Let's talk a little NFL for the coming week. Let's shift focus.
I'm done with this freaking Mattress Mac guy. I'm done with him.
It's a mainstream story. We're going to cover it on WagerTalk Today. We're going to cover it.
I'd rather talk about the guy who is a bully.
I'm sure you would. Arthur, let's talk about NFL for this week. Anything that we're seeing in terms of early week betting action? Who do the pros like? Who do the Joes like? Anything you've taken a position on? Talk to us about the early week action at the Westgate Super.
Sure, absolutely. Public game, which has seen a lot of public money. Chargers at Niners. Niners have been pretty public. 6.5, it's now 7. It's not really anything sharp, but it is the public that's driven that number to the key number of 7. Obviously, Vikings, Bills, you got to talk about it. The line movement on that has been incredible. Obviously, Josh Allen, he hasn't necessarily been ruled out, but the number makes you think he's been ruled out. We had Vikings as high as 9. It's now 3.5. And that goes to show you basically, the star quarterback's going to be basically worth the touchdown. We were taking a lot of Viking bets when the number was moving, not even really much on the point spread, which we were, but more on the money line. People were taking shots on the money line saying, well, it's 8 now, it's 7, it's 6.5, it's 5.5. And they just kept taking shots with the money line. So a lot of outright stuff on the Vikings because of that news. Houston at the Giants. Giants off a bye. Houston's not that good. Giants have been pretty good. Took sharp money on 7. Took sharp money on 6.5. Now 4.5. So pretty interesting move there. Giants have been good to bettors this year, even though bettors haven't really been betting them. But that's been a pretty interesting move as well.
Which of the two New York teams has gotten the more public support, the Giants or the Jets? And which has gotten the more wise guy support?
I think it's the Jets on both ends, to be honest with you. I think the Jet defense, people like it. It's good. They got a little bit more weapons on offense. Obviously, Breece Hall went out, so that hurt them. But, yeah, I would say it's slightly leaned towards the Jets, both public and sharp, especially sharp, actually.
We're talking, of course, with Arthur DiCesare at ArtDice21 on Twitter. He's a risk management supervisor at the Westgate Superbook here in Las Vegas. It's been I think, Art, you were here right from the beginning when we started WagerTalk Today, weren't you? Pretty soon after. He's been with us from the get-go. An absolute, it's a joy to have on the program each week and someone that we look forward to. I want to talk about the Alabama Crimson Tide for a moment because, and let's shift our focus to college football here. Alabama lost 2 games. One was in overtime. One came on the last play of the game. And people are telling me the narrative now is Alabama stinks. Boy, this team, wow, how did they screw it up? I mean, The mainstream narrative in Alabama blows me away. They lost 2 tight coin flip games against elite teams, and it was like Alabama stinks. Is all the money for Ole Miss this week? Alabama as road favorites in Oxford. Are the markets expecting the Crimson Tide to collapse now that they're, in theory, have no chance to win a national title?
Yeah, I mean, Alabama's interesting. They could have lost to both Texas teams, A&M and UT. So, I mean, Alabama's had kind of a weird year, but it's still Alabama. They still got all the talent in the world. But like you said, they go on the road to Ole Miss, minus 12, almost a 2-touchdown favorite. But, I think some of the more in tune bettors will probably think, oh, we're getting a little bit of discount now with Alabama. Saban will have his boys ready to go. It's against an old assistant in Lane Kiffin. Kiffin has not been good against Alabama. So I'm sure there will be public support for Ole Miss, just thinking, well, Alabama's out of it now. What do they have to play for? Ole Miss is pretty good. All these points catching at home. But, there's really not much to report on the game so far because, no one's taken a position on it either way.
Well, if there's nothing to report on Alabama, Ole Miss, what is there stuff to report on? What are we seeing in terms of early week sharp money in college football?
A couple of games. The college slate, it's not that great this week, but there are definitely a couple of games to hit on. Maryland at Penn State. Early support on Maryland. Was plus 11.5. It's now 10. So you've seen some good sharp money coming on Maryland. The Southern Miss at Coastal Carolina game. Interesting. The Grayson McCall news pretty much moved that number dramatically. It was 11.5. And we were taking 11.5 and 11 sharp money. Now it's at 6.5. So, I mean, Coastal, despite losing their quarterback and their best player, it's been a 5-point move. So sharp guys got the best of the number, and that's moved us there. TCU, who's now number 4 in the country, they go on the road to Texas. It was 7.5. It's now 7. That's been public money. The TCU public money, people feel, okay, let's take a shot with TCU here. I think sharp guys will be happy to take Texas because they know that they're better than TCU. And then this is an interesting one. LSU coming off the big win. They now have to go on the road to Fayetteville, play Arkansas, who just lost to Liberty. It's -3 at LSU. Now, it's kind of split right now, but I think that's going to be public on LSU. Sharps are going to be on Arkansas, getting the home points.
Oh,
What?
I just got that,
I
Teddy.
never reminded you.
As it happened, Art, I know you don't take a lot of bets on the Canadian Football League, but we do have the semifinals coming up this weekend. Are you seeing action in the Canadian football?
Not yet, Prez, but, when it comes to the CFL, that's usually day of. We usually see stuff day of in the CFL. It's not like, all right, we're a couple of days out from the game, and it's not like the NFL or college football where we see stuff all week. But, maybe day before game, but definitely day of game. We'll see action.
Art DiCesare, everybody. Art, what do you got to promote?
Oh, as always, gentlemen, coming on Wednesdays, I'm able to promote 105 Thursdays. You come into the Westgate on Thursdays, it's -105 juice. That's college football in the NFL. That's sides and totals. You could save yourself a little bit of money. It's a great thing we do all football season. And if you take advantage over the long haul of a football season, you're putting some more dollars in your pocket, which is always a good thing. And if anyone is a brand new app user and wants to sign up for our app, we got a great promotion running through all football season. You come in, you sign up, you bet 100, get 100. So it's like a free $100 roll.
Nice.
And as always, if anyone needs help with any of these type of things, seats, drink tickets, the -105 sheets, how to bet, getting signed up for the app, you come down, you ask for Arthur DiCesare, and I'll be more than happy to help you with whatever you need.
Outstanding job. What a show, Teddy. 380 people watching live, 78 likes. We're done. Take us home, my friend.
Sure, that's going to wrap it. For the Wednesday edition of WagerTalk Today, Lawrence gets to keep his picks in his pocket for this evening. We'll do it again tomorrow. Same time, same channel, 9 a.m. here on the left coast, noon for you back east. Between now and then, you know what to do. Enjoy the games, and good luck tonight.
The college basketball season is less than 1 week away, and the season starts with a bang. There are 126 games scheduled for Monday, November 7th, with Baylor and Mississippi Valley State tipping off at noon Eastern Time. We have 2 ways to help you get this season underway. Number 1, as we did for the start of the NHL season and as well as the beginning of the NBA season, all 7-day college basketball packages will be only $49 through Sunday, November 13th at midnight. Number 2, head to Ralph Michaels' homepage at WagerTalk.com and get the free 100-page college basketball preview. The shortcut to Ralph's page is wt.buzz/rm. This 100-page guide has returning starters, percentage of returning minutes, last season's overall stats, as well as conference-only statistics, plus against the spread and over-under data. It also includes coaching data, conference previews, and a forecast for each conference. Whether it's a 7-day college basketball package, checking the WagerTalk odds page for updated numbers, or downloading the free college basketball guide, enjoy this season. And March Madness will be here before we know it.